really brilliant what they can do. And for us, what's nice is that, of course, they're filming, they're displaying, so we just have to go to the OR and plug a PC in the middle, and we can do augmentation. That's as simple as that. The one thing less simple is that the augmentation data so far come from preoperative radiological data. In that case, that's a slide from an MRI volume, which is quite interesting. You can see what's in red is actually the uterus, and that's the one I've shown at the beginning of the presentation. And the two black shapes inside the uterus are tumors that has to be resected, removed from by surgery. However, they're in the uterus, in the tissue, so they're not visible by laparoscopy because the surgeon can see only the outside of the organ from inside, from the abdomen. So they can't see the tumors, basically. It's actually quite funny, at least in France, the radiologist makes the MRI, and then he makes some report to the surgeon. It says, my dear colleague, I found that many tumors, but it doesn't say how big they are, where they are, etc. And many of the surgeons, they don't look at the MRI. They do ultrasound because they do it by themselves, but they don't look at the MRI. And in ultrasound, you can't see that well this type of tumors. So anyway, we thought that this was a very good opportunity for AR to try and augment this data on the laparoscopic image in real time. So you can see that here that sets the problem, which is to register that thing to that one, different modalities, different type of images. The first one is volume. Of course, the MRI is done a month before the surgery, typically, so we have time to segment it and to prepare it. But still, this shows the surfaces of the object, this shows the volume, so that's quite different. And, of course, we have these conditions, which makes it really challenging. At the moment, we're trying to address the clean case when nothing much going on. And the idea would be to overlay the tumors for the surgeon to prepare the incision places by burning. They have this cauterizer with which they can actually burn and mark the places for where they will have to cut later on. So that's the plan. So I don't have that much time, so I'll skip the details about the tumors really, but that's a schematic of the uterus, and we're interested in the B tumors, the ones which they call intramural. So they are really within the tissue. They can't be seen by hysteroscopy, which is the endoscope that goes within the uterus. Neither can they be seen from the laparoscopy, which is in the abdomen. And sometimes they are very well visible, like in the top case, but sometimes they are completely invisible. And because they come by many, usually the smallest one, like the ones which are less than 0.5 centimeters, they are left by the surgeon in place. And because they always grow, then it means that it's recurrent and re-intervention. It's not very good. So that's what we prepare from the MRI. We have like 3 directions, so we have 3 volumes, not just one, and from this we can manually contour the uterus. We can reconstruct the shape, so you can see it's actually the fallopian tubes here and there, and that should be the fundus of the uterus, and this one is completely deformed by a very big tumor, this one. And this one is not a problem. I mean, wherever the surgeon cuts, it will be there. But the second one is much smaller, and that's this one that AR can help find. So that's the problem we have. We have to solve registration from this model to the current frame of the laparoscope. So it's deformable for several reasons. It's multimodal built, it must be real time, and it must be automatic, otherwise it's got no interest. And then we can do this sort of augmentation with whatever the radiologist or the surgeon outlines on the pre-op model can be transferred to the intra-op model. So the way to go is actually to split this into two different parts. And the idea is to use this reference shape of the uterus. So we split the registration problem into the part that registers the pre-op shape to the reference shape. That's the hard part. But the good thing is that it has to be done only once, because then we can just update, of course, the pose or the registration from the reference shape to the current frame, and this is just the same modality. So this is a much easier problem. So we have these two problems, and the requirements are just much lower into the problem 1. So the way we chose to go, and this is very, very specific for the uterus, this won't work on any other organ, is to use a cannula. That's what they call these rigid instruments that go through the vagina until the fundus of the uterus. And with this, they actually very used to manipulate the uterus, so to look at it from different orientations, which is very good for us because we can collect frames, and the motion is actually rigid to a very good extent. So from all these frames that we were collecting, we can actually use the occluding contour to find the registration. Because it's rigid, it's the same registration, the same 3D deformation for all frames. So we outline all the occluding contours there, and we find the deformation from the MRI shape which will best fit the occluding contour in our images. And we can reconstruct the reference shape by structure for motion. So we have a good set of data to solve the next problem, which is computing the pose from this reference shape. And we use key points for that so far, because we haven't managed to solve it with deformable. I'll show you an example later. So far we're using a pose computation, and that works quite well. So this is an example of tracking that works at 30 Hz on the GPU, and that's we're quite happy. This is tracking by detection, so it just works independently for every frame. So you can see these white marks on the surface. That's, we don't use them. That's they were there for validation. They are actually burn marks that we asked the surgeon to make, so we can validate quantitatively the quality of the tracking. This is surprising. I was surprised that they accepted that. Well, that was prior to hysterectomy, which means they were going to remove the uterus. That's another example. So the key to make it work, because the texture is a bit loose here, to make it work, we actually kept all the shapes, all the images, the reference images. We detected loads of key points, thousands of key points in all these images, and we kept all of them. And at runtime, we're just matching very quickly the current frame to all the key points, to all the thousands of key points, and then we vote for the closest frame. And thanks to the GPU, that's very fast. And so that's a very basic, simple principle. That basically, you know that things like they're not fully defined invariant, and the idea was to cope with this non-fully defined invariance or fully perspective invariance of the feature detectors. Now I'll show an example of augmentation. So that's an example that we did on the phantom. We have a very good phantom of the uterus. So that's the tracking part. To skip to the. Maybe I can't do that. I can't skip. I can't go faster. So that's the tool which is manipulating the uterus. that's originally a phantom that he used for training. That's interesting because they have real tumors within. And every part is disposable. So when they train, they usually cut it, they find the tumors, and they measure how well, how fast, and these sort of things. And that's the interesting part. So that we simulated a virtual tumor, which is there, and you can see the augmentation on the same video actually. So that was going well. And we did some tests with the residents at the hospital, and that was very funny because what we were doing was to simulate the MRI. And so we would show them the MRI, and then they had a phantom, and then so they had to point with some tool where they thought that the tumor was on the phantom. And then we would turn on the AR system, and they would confirm or not the place that they had pointed to was correct. And some of them, they didn't want to do it. It was very funny, especially the more experienced surgeons in front of all the beginners. They didn't want to take the chance of missing the tumor. And one of them, that was the funniest part, he was actually looking, so he looked at the visual MRI, and then he looked at the phantom, and he said, oh, I think, and then he said, turn on your thing. So we turned on the AR, and then he said, turn it off, and then he said, it's there. that was very cool. So that's another one. Anyway, so that was post-computation that was rigid, and our next step, I think, will be to use a real deformation of the template to cope with these cases where the tool is pressing, because they do this a lot, to press, because then they can kind of sense the stiffness of the tissue, and that helps them to localize the tumor. So it means deformation, and if the augmentation disappears exactly at this time where they need it to confirm localization, that's missing the point. So we want to apply shape from template because this is exactly the setup of shape from template. And we've done some very preliminary tests, so that on the left, this small thing is the flattened uterus, visually, physically flattened, which serves as the template. We matched it. At the moment, we clicked a lot of points because, believe me, automatic matching here without ransack is very challenging. And we applied a few of the state-of-the-art methods, and with one of them, with a conformal, so with isometric methods, distance preserving didn't work, but with a conformal method, it worked quite well. So that's a side view of the model we're constructing, and this actually here is where the tool was pressing. So I don't have any numbers to give you, but it seems that it's giving something. So there is hope. So I'm very close to my conclusion. That's I think the level of difficulty for doing registration or construction. I think in the rigid case, I wouldn't say it's solved, but it's very mature. And when I see all the impressive demos that AR has, I think it works very well. Then in the deformable side, we're still opening the box and bringing out the dirty things. The isometric case is, I think, the easiest case because it's locally rigid. That's what isometric is. That's what I was suggesting by saying about that my little infinitesimal patch is embedded by local rotation translation. So that's why I think we have had some success in this, even though we are far from having it to be mature and running live and reliable, etc. And then at the other end of the spectrum, of course, there are the extensible materials, not to talk about things like fire, water, and all these more complicated phenomena, in terms of reconstruction difficulty way beyond all what I'm showing here. And one thing I'm particularly interested in is to combine detection and recognition for this kind of more complex scenes, where here the shape space of a general image is very high, but if you split the scene into with detection and recognition, for instance, here there would be faces and newspapers, you have specific constraints. We know how to reconstruct faces to some extent, because if you know you have a face, the shape space is small for faces, so you can use a face model, fit, and find a 3D shape. And it's been known for a long time. Whereas for the case of paper, that's the opposite. The way it deforms is simple, but the shape space is very large. But shape from template can solve for the shape. And overall, I think that by parsing an image like this, dividing, splitting in different components, we might be able to address this case of more complicated scenes and with learning and databases as well. So we've tried something like this. We've tried to make a system where we combine different templates, and our aim was to actually build live database with many templates so as to be able to address many different scenes. So that's an ongoing project running in my group. Hopefully we'll have something that works in real time and is able to learn new objects, new templates. I'm going to skip this detail. And we have some code if you're interested to try this type of SFT techniques. So at the moment it's MATLAB. It doesn't run that slow, but of course it's not tailored for live augmentation, of course. But we're planning to make a C implementation. I think we have pretty much everything to make it run real time and to work, to be released to people to use it. That should come within a year, hopefully. And lastly, that's my last slide. I wanted to present you this problem, which is called non-rigid structural motion, which is very interesting. It's a bit older than Sheffield template, but it's more difficult because there's no template. You have multiple images, it's like structural motion, except that the object is non-rigid. And some groups have worked on this problem with some success. That's quite interesting. And I'm showing the result that we have obtained recently. Given 3 images or more, that's using the assumption that the surface deforms isometrically, and we are able to obtain shape. And I mean, even quantitatively, it's not bad. It's within a few millimeters for this type of shape, so that's promising. And very important, we're offering 2 positions in my group, so if you feel interested in working on this type of methods, there is some nice research to do in nice environments. So we are reaching the coffee break, but of course I'll take any questions and comments, however nasty they are, that you can make.
Thank you, Adrien. Great stuff.
Thanks.
Questions? You said nasty questions a lot.
Go ahead.
At some point the surgeon does this.
Oh my god.
Do you think you will be able to handle it at some point?
I don't know. To be honest, I think so, but I haven't worked. This breaks the continuity of my embedding, and for me it also means that we have to find the tear explicitly at some point, or we just have to remain with a very local reconstruction method. I don't know. This is difficult to say, but at least there are ideas around for that.
A variation of the question is, how do you deal with the volumetric deformation? Because if the tumor is inside the
yes.
whatever the organ, and I mean, the teapot you can stick outside and it basically turns with the normal, but for the inside it's not difficult.
Yes. That's a very good question. We've actually done volume-based shape from template. For some reason it was rejected from the NPC. That's a really nasty question. We're planning to resubmit to CVPR, but we've tried it, and indeed we've tried with objects like foam ball and these sort of things, and it's difficult because from the surface you have to predict what's going on in the inside of the objects. But with a full volume-based deformation model, it does something nice. It works.
And you did not really say much about the conformal mapping, but I assume it's something like least squares conformal mapping, because the cap cannot be made flat.
Yeah, well, that's we've just used the library, but that's
okay. So that's some flattening with minimal distortions is what you're.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they use it for texture mapping. Distortion is really not too large.
Any more questions?
Can you give more details on the convex relaxation you used?
Yes.
I did not get it.
The one.
Can you also comment on the quality of the relaxation? Relaxation usually means there's a gap to the true energy.
Yes. Alright. So you're referring to this part, aren't you? Yes, so in that case, what's non-convex is the second term, the orthonormality of the Jacobian of phi. And the relaxation was to consider that, so it means that the geodesic distance is preserved, and the relaxation is to say that the geodesic distance cannot exceed the reference distance. So it's bounding.
It could be smaller but not larger.
Yes, and that's convex. That's a cone constraint.
Yes.
And well, in the end, most of these methods they end up with second order cone programs. And it's a good relaxation when it's associated to what's been called the maximum depth heuristic. So if you think of this relaxation that says basically my distances should be upper bounded, then you have a space of solution, and one is to shrink the surface completely, for instance, on the camera center, and you've met all the constraints. So this heuristic is a cost that says the surface should be as far as possible from the camera and should satisfy these what's called inextensibility constraints, actually, this upper bound. And that's this whole thing that works well.
What is the right reference of these papers?
Well, of this whole relaxation, I think it was, so for sure it was used in this one, in this one as well, and in that one they have a different relaxation that works a little better, I think, but it's not from my group, so I can't tell you the exact trick they've used. It's based on Appalachian meshes.
Thank you.
So all these things use the brightness constancy in some sense. And it seems like when you're folding a paper or in a kinematic scenario, there's actually quite some change in appearance. Right? But it doesn't seem to influence you much. Is that just because the regularization is strong enough to smooth that away? Or?
So you mean in terms of the data term?
Yeah.
Well, we've not always used the brightness constancy. That's a bit more that's conceptual. In practice, we've done several things. We've tried several things. Of course, we've tried all the normalized correlation operators. The one thing that works well is was inspired by the work they did. I think it was in Surrey on the shadow removal, where they have a model for the BRDF and the lights, the temperature of the light, and within some reasonable assumption on all these, you come up with a normalization of the color space, which usually removes shadows more or less. And we've used this quite a lot. That works well.
More questions?
How smooth can the solutions be? Like if you really put creases into paper or something like that, how does this work out? What are the limits there?
What happens if there are creases?
Like how smooth your embeddings can be. Basically when you put a crease,
Yeah,
like you really fold the paper.
that's a very good question. So, in everything I've used, I have this assumption that phi is C2, which means that it's twice continuously differentiable. In practice, we ended up with a local solution, so that depends on the point and the local derivative. So I think everything works if phi is locally differential, so locally smooth. It doesn't have to be smooth on the whole domain.
So do you have some I don't know, robustness to if you have some points which are not smooth that you can still work?
So if the point is exactly on the sharp fold, of course we'll be in trouble, because what will happen is the work will smooth. We'll get some sort of local average of the derivatives, and the quality of the depth will not be very good. But for those points which are not, not everything can be non-differentiable. There are necessarily places where on an object which are smooth, and that's enough for it to work locally.
So I have another question. You said that it's not real time, but it's usable, and it's it could be trained to be real time. What do you say about being applicable in, let's say, most of the modern tablets, for example? I mean, you're doing GPU-based matching, for example, probably.
Yes.
Just guessing.
Yes. Well, I don't know. We have tried last year to make an implementation in tablet. Well, it was a master student, and didn't manage so far. But that's on the agenda, so it's probably possible, let's say. Because for me, the bottleneck is the registration. The second step of registration is just there is a closed form solution for every pixel. That's very fast. But the registration, I don't know. Probably.
Is tracking the clothes like this the normal continuation will work, or totally different?
With respect to,
You're tracking the texture clothes like.
you mean if there is no texture? If this is unicolor?
Yeah, you can explain.
Like
Yes.
my jump.
What is possible and what is not?
This is not possible.
Yeah. how about the texture t-shirts like those?
Well, I think at the moment we have to have texture. That's one of the assumptions, and it has to be not too repetitive. Like probably that shirt is a good example of repetitive texture, which will be hard to match. But I mean, then there are other methods to solve for registration with repetitive texture. Graph-based methods that use local constraints, local similarity constraints, and binary consistency constraints. They're able to cope with this sort of texture.
at the expense of computational cost, of course.
Yeah, the graphs are much more expensive to solve.
Okay, last question. If there are no more questions, I can put up the agenda for the rest of the day. But thanks to keynote speaker again.